The kind of wedding gift that should bring a family closer together. A handmade gesture of love from a brother-in-law. So why was it met with a cold rejection? And what happened when one man refused to take no for an answer? This is a story about tradition, tension, and the moment a simple wooden gift became a symbol of so much more. Stay with us, because the truth behind this family moment will change how you see the famous Duggars forever. To understand the weight of a single moment, you have to understand the world it happened in. A world defined by uniformity, by a specific set of rules, and by a public image carefully maintained over countless episodes of television. The Duggar family, with their 19 children, became a cultural fixture. Their lives, filmed and followed, presented a picture of harmonious unity. A family governed by principles of modesty, courtship, and a very particular way of life. The daughters, especially, were portrayed as graceful homemakers in waiting, their paths seemingly predestined. Jana Duggar, the eldest daughter, lived squarely in that spotlight yet always seemed to hold a part of herself just outside the frame. Known for her gardening, her quiet strength, and her role as a helper in the family, Jana became an enigmatic figure to the public. While her siblings married and started families, her prolonged single status became a recurring topic of discussion, a subtle deviation from the expected narrative. This is the backdrop. A family culture where gifts are not just objects, but often carry meaning, intention, and sometimes unspoken expectations. Into this world entered the spouses, the ones who married into the Duggar legacy. They had to navigate the existing dynamics, the unspoken rules, and the delicate balance of becoming part of the clan while bringing their own personalities to the table. One of these figures was Jim Bob? No, not the father. This is about a different Jim. This is about James, but often called Jim Bob in error, a simple confusion that itself speaks to the sprawling nature of the family. More precisely, this is about a man named Stephen who married into the family. He represented a new generation, perhaps with a slightly different approach to the family's established norms. He was an outsider who became an insider, a man now connected to the intricate web of Duggar relationships. And it is at the intersection of Jana's reserved existence and this new energy coming from the married-in spouses that our story unfolds. It was a time of celebration, a wedding. These events in the Duggar family are grand affairs, community celebrations, but also deeply personal milestones. Gifts are given, blessings are offered, and the family circle expands. It was for such an occasion that Stephen, the brother-in-law, decided to give a gift. Not a gift from a registry, not a purchased item, but something infinitely more personal. A handmade wooden creation. Imagine the thought behind it. The selection of the wood, the hours of work, the intention to create something unique and lasting. This was a labor of love, a physical manifestation of welcome and familial bond. In most families, such a gift would be received with tears of joy, with immediate appreciation for the effort and the heart it represented. But this was not most families. This was a family where dynamics were complex, where relationships were played out both in private and under the potential gaze of the public. And so, when this heartfelt, handmade gift was presented to Jana, the reaction was not what anyone might have predicted. The rejection was reported as cold, a refusal to accept the offering. The reasons were not stated clearly in public, but the act itself sent ripples through the understanding of family harmony. Was it a matter of personal taste? A misunderstanding? Or did this wooden object bump up against an unspoken rule, a boundary within the family's social structure? The rejection was a silent earthquake, a crack in the perfect facade. It suggested layers of interaction that were not as smooth as they appeared. It hinted at possible tensions between the original family unit and the new members joining through marriage. It painted Jana not just as a gentle gardener, but as a woman with firm boundaries, capable of a decisive and perhaps surprising refusal. For Stephen, the creator of the gift, this moment was not just a personal slight. It was a rejection of his effort to connect, of his place within the family structure. It put him in a difficult position. Accept the rejection and potentially create a permanent distance, or stand his ground. Stephen chose to stand his ground. He forced the acceptance of the gift. This phrase, forced acceptance, is powerful. It implies a moment of tension, a direct challenge to the initial refusal. It suggests that Stephen believed so strongly in the rightness of his gesture, in the importance of the familial connection it symbolized, that he was willing to create a moment of conflict to see it through. He was not just giving a wooden object, he was insisting on the bond it represented. This act shifts the entire story. It is no longer just about a rejected gift. It becomes a story about clashing wills, about the old guard versus the new, about the power of persistence. What did Stephen say or do in that moment to turn the refusal into an acceptance? Was it a quiet, firm insistence? A reasoned argument about family and grace? The details are private, but the outcome is reported. The gift was ultimately accepted. But an acceptance that is forced is different from one that is freely given. It leaves a residue. The gift, now in Jana's possession, transforms from a simple object of wood into a complex symbol. It is a symbol of a resolved conflict, but perhaps also a lingering reminder of that conflict. It represents Stephen's determination to be seen as a genuine part of the family, to have his offerings respected. And for Jana, it may represent an imposed obligation, a bending of her own will within the very family structure that defined her life. This small, private incident, once it came to light, became a key for the public to reinterpret everything they thought they knew about the Duggars. It provided a narrative that was more human, more relatable, and more dramatic than the perfectly curated television storylines. It showed that even in the most regimented of families, human emotions are complex. That sisters and brothers-in-law have disagreements. That gifts can be weapons or peace offerings, depending on the hands that give and receive them. The story resonates because it is not about a scandal in the traditional sense. It is about the quiet scandals of family life, perceived disrespect, hurt feelings, stubbornness, and the struggle for personal autonomy within a collective identity. Jana, by rejecting, was asserting a sliver of personal choice. Stephen, by insisting, was asserting his right to belong. The wooden gift became the battleground for these two valid, conflicting human needs. In the years that have followed, this moment has been analyzed and reanalyzed by followers of the family story. It is cited as evidence of Jana's independent streak, a hint of a personality that chafed against certain constraints. It is used to illustrate the potential friction as the family empire expands through marriage, bringing in new personalities that don't always perfectly align with the established Duggar way. And for Stephen, it marked him as someone with a backbone, willing to push for what he believed was right within the family dynamic. The deeper you look, the more the story reflects universal themes. Every family has its own culture, its own unspoken rules. Every family experiences the tension when new members join through marriage. Every family knows the delicate dance of gift-giving, where the object itself is often less important than the relationship it signifies. The Duggar family, despite their extraordinary size and public profile, is ultimately a family. And this story proves that their dynamics, in their essence, are familiar. They're about love, conflict, resolution, and the messy, beautiful, complicated bonds that tie people together, for better or worse. The gift, that simple handmade wooden item, likely sits in a home somewhere today. It is a physical piece of this history. One can wonder if Jana ever looks at it and remembers the moment of its giving. Does she see a piece of craftsmanship, a symbol of family connection, or a reminder of a difficult interaction? Perhaps it is all three, because that is what families do. They take the difficult moments and the loving gestures, and they blend them together into a shared history. They force acceptance, not just of gifts, but of each other, with all their flaws and stubbornness and good intentions. The story of the rejected gift is ultimately a story of that forced acceptance on a human level. It's about a family learning to stretch its boundaries to include not just new people, but new ways of interacting. It's a microcosm of the change that was inevitable as 19 children grew up and brought new influences into the fold. So, the next time you see a picture of the Duggar family, smiling and unified, remember this story. Remember that behind every smile, there is a history. Behind every family, there are 1,000 untold stories of small rebellions, quiet insistences, rejected gifts, and hard-won acceptances. Their world, like ours, is built not on perfection, but on the ongoing, complicated, and heartfelt effort to be a family.